You.
Sorry, I'm trying to get my camera right.
Yeah, get it together. We'll let people come in and join. It's Wednesday, talking with some real life boss women. So I'm so excited that Devin gave me the opportunity to host for the month and that I get to bring my fabulous friends on alongside me.
Oh, I'm super excited. This is my first live, and I really am thankful for you and Devin, and how y'all have both helped me develop my career. So super duper excited to be able to share with you guys and meet some really awesome people on the live.
Yes. So just for everybody joining, this month is really focused on how do we win in the workplace. I think a lot of times we talk financial freedom and we automatically jump to entrepreneurship. But for a lot of people, working a corporate career gives them the tools to be able to invest in themselves. So we want to make sure if you're one of those people out there working a 9 to 5, like don't let nobody discourage you and tell you have to go be an entrepreneur. Let's use your tools and your time and your resources while you're in corporate to make sure you're winning, getting the best you're making the most and financially so that you can fund whatever dreams you have personally, especially outside of work. So we're hoping to do that this week. The first week is going to be focused on women in the workplace. So I have Iman, and then we are going to add Jessica on here as well. So bear with me. Devin said, shout out to Iman in the building. He's more here than me, Devin. Like, what about shout out to Tiara being in the building?
But okay. I'll shout you out, T.
This is why we're friends. At least you love me here. And then we're just waiting for Jess to pop in. So, Iman, give us your background. Tell us a little bit about yourself. One of my first questions was going to be kind of give us a look into your childhood. Where'd you grow up? What's your family like? Just give us like background. Who were you before the boss corporate woman you are today?
Well, I was always a boss. But you know, growing up, I'm from Indiana, so I grew up in southern Indiana. I have a big family, so I am one of 6 kids. So I have 4 brothers, a sister, and then there's me right smack dab in the middle. I went to Purdue and then eventually started my career at a CPG company with P&G. Growing up, I think something that really enabled me to be, or try to be as boss as I can is just that I might not have always had the most money or the most experiences, like as I see like some of my coworkers and some of my friends have had growing up. But my family was always telling me how great I was. They weren't wrong. And was telling me that I'm basically capable of doing anything. And I think I didn't recognize at the time how having that reinforcement and that confidence and faith that, hey, I'm meant for bigger and better things than maybe what I see in the environment around me, like how much that impacted me and really gave me the spirit to pursue, bigger things, to graduate from college and to start a job at a Fortune 50 company. So that is really one of the things from my childhood that really enabled me to be who I am today. So shout out to my family. They are the absolute best.
Yeah, I love that. And that's why I think I love this organization, because I think that's something we have in common from childhood. Like, my parents never knew what I was going to do or how I was going to do it, but they never shot down a dream. Like, if I told them I wanted to be president of the United States, they were like, all right, what's it going to take to make it happen, right? So just shout out to that, like, unyielding support and having that in our family, because unfortunately everybody doesn't get that. I love the work that this group is doing, because you guys are getting to the communities and show these young men and women that have the world, right? So I think you need that. Let me go ahead and pop Jess in here 1 second. I have not one girl boss on the phone, but 2. So welcoming Jess.
Hi, ladies.
Hi, Jess.
Oh,
hi. Let me turn the camera the right way. There we go.
Yeah. So I was telling everybody on the phone that, the spotlight for this month is all about working and like winning in corporate and winning in the workplace. Because I think this organization, they do a ton of work around financial freedom. And I think a lot of times when you hear financial freedom, you jump straight to entrepreneurship. And I want to let people know who are out there working a 9 to 5, who haven't went to entrepreneurship just yet, that you can still win in your everyday environment and then use that to fund whatever dreams and passions you have outside of work. So I invited you both on because that you are two living examples of people that are succeeding and thriving in your career. And we're going to focus on women in the workplace this week. And so I'm just going to ask you guys a ton of questions about your childhood, where you grew up, where you're from, and then kind of how did all those things help shape you into the person you are today? And then what things have you learned in the corporate environment that you think could be helpful to other people as you're looking to navigate and succeed in that space? So I have a little circle for Jess, so I hope she is here.
I'm over here moving stuff around, logging off my computer because I'm like, is it me?
Yeah. Circling in. So, we lost her. So hopefully we'll bring her back. But I have in mind. So I will.
In the meantime, I think you could say a little bit about yourself too, and we can just go at this tag team.
Yeah, of course. So I've hosted one of these before, so I felt like people have at least seen my face. But my name's Tiara. I'm originally from Georgia, so Athens, Georgia, born and raised. College an hour outside of Athens. I'm an only child, and I'm a first-generation college student, so neither one of my parents school. It was me who kind of started that legacy for our family, so I'm super excited, and I feel a huge amount of responsibility every day to, like, show my parents that all the sacrifices were worth it, like the night shifts, me staying with my grandma and everybody else, it was all worth it, and I think they are so proud and excited of kind of where I am now, so I hold that responsibility very close. First job and only job has been at P&G. So what Iman said, Fortune 50 company, came right out of college, did an internship at P&G. Been here ever since. I had no idea that I would be where I'm at such a young age, being able to make a good amount of money and do things for my family. I got to take my mom to Miami this year and like put her in a 5-star hotel and tell her to leave her card at home. Such a like full circle moment to be like, look at me being able to provide and show out for my family. So that's who I do it for, and really excited to be here and host for today. And Jess, now your turn to introduce us to you. Give us a little bit about your background, where you're from. Tell us about your childhood and kind of everything you were pre like corporate America, Jess.
All right, so hi everyone. My name is Jessica Wooten Macklin. Childhood-wise, I grew up in Riverdale, Georgia, and spent a lot of my childhood there, which is kind of known as the hood. It's really interesting because when we first moved there, it was kind of like a nice neighborhood, and then like slowly, you kind of started to see the transition, especially as like the schools like lost their accreditation. I was there for that part, and things just kind of got bad. And so around the day before high school, actually, my mom moved us to the neighboring county, Fayette County, which is where I went to high school at. And so it was honestly like just such a weird and pivotal moment and then one that I didn't even acknowledge or realize until I got older, of just like how much of a difference Riverdale was, again, the next town over from Fayetteville. And I really think that transition to Fayetteville pushed me to like want better for myself. I saw, nice homes and families that were together, because I come from a single parent household. So families that were together and, well taken care of children. Like a lot of kids at my school had their first car their junior year, and Riverdale could never say that. So it was really like a nice pivotal moment, and it really opened my eyes to like what's out there. Like I know what Riverdale is, and now I know what better is, and now I know what I can go for. And so I think that was really important about my childhood. Although my parents weren't together, they were still extremely supportive. I saw my dad very consistently, which I thank God for. And I think overall, I agree with Tiara. One of the statements you were saying earlier is that your parents always like believed in you, and they always told you like whatever you want, you can do it. And I think I had that same support. And even to this day, my mom is still my number one cheerleader, always cheering me on. What do you want to do next? All right, how can I help you get there? So definitely think like a strong family support system is so important. And I'm thankful that I was able to have that.
I love that. Shout out to supportive families. When y'all get off the phone, call parents and tell them all of the love and support they have poured into your life, because legit, without we would not be here having this conversation. So
yeah.
fun to Iman with the sales. I'll kick it to Jen first.
I'm so sorry. I lost your sound for a second. So could you please repeat the question?
Oh, little technical difficulty. So I would say we're going to kick it over to kind of where you are today. So you guys are both in extremely different industries, just being in finance, Iman being in sales. Could you let everybody know how you got into your current career field? Like what piqued your interest? What got you here? And I said I'll kick it off to start.
Okay, I think that was for me to start. You were still kind of going in and out, T, so sorry. But yes, how I got here. So for me, I've always had an interest in math. I was extremely good in math in school, and it was so effortlessly for me. So I was like, okay. But I didn't want to go like scientist or like mathematician or whatever and go like those extremely hardcore math majors and kind of career paths. So accounting was like something in the back of my mind, but never super out there until about high school when I started taking a few business classes and I realized I loved business. So for me, accounting, which is what I'm doing, accounting and finance, was perfect because it paired like the math side, a little bit of math in there, but it also paired the business, which is what I really wanted to get into because I just feel like business is so powerful. It's so important. It influences so many other sectors of the world and other industries. And I just wanted to be that influential woman in the boardroom, you know, like represented. So that was always something that really like pushed me. And then of course, moving into college, declaring my major as an accountant and taking my first accounting course, which is confirmation. Like I automatically passed it. The class was easy. Everybody's like, oh my God, this test was so hard. I'm like, I made a 99, but okay. So I'm like, that for me was like confirmation. They're like, okay, this is right for you. And so, you know, fast forward 3 internships, 3 leadership and diversity training seminars, and like 4 jobs later, I'm finally doing what I want to be doing in the public accounting space. So super blessed.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, accounting was very hard. I speak for everybody. For us that had to struggle through accounting. So shout out to you. Next question to you.
Yeah, I think it's crazy just hearing you tell about your journey into accounting. I had like pretty much the exact opposite journey where I majored in accounting and sales. And I was like, yo, like, I mean, math is fine, I guess, but I think it's just not for me. I couldn't see myself making a career out of it. And so the same way you gravitated toward accounting, I gravitated more toward the business and the selling side of things. And so I had not really had a ton of sales experience while I was in college. So I think my first thing is like, everyone doesn't land their dream job right out of college. So for me, my journey involved a lot of like rickety moments where I had a degree from one of the most prestigious public universities in the country, and I was bartending. And then I was, you know, while applying for jobs and doing things, and then I was doing like door-to-door sales. I'm like, you don't need a degree to lie to people. Like anybody can do that. And then, you know, eventually I was able to, you know, find the right company for me. And that's kind of how I got started at P&G in sales, where it's really about building relationships and problem solving. So those are both things that I am good at and I want to continue to develop in. And so my journey wasn't linear, and I think that a lot of people's journeys aren't, but I'm where I am and I'm loving it. So yeah, thanks for the question, T.
I love that. Yeah, and I love the apps. It's important to note, like to your point there, you know, like I think people think you go to college, you get a degree, go land your dream job and work for 30 years. And I think that's so outdated. It's like our generation has really redefined what does it look like to do passionate about, what does it look like to jump from career space to career space, what does it look like to fund a little side hustle, you know, that may turn into your redefine the process. And I think that's the beauty about life, is that we're all still so young and have so much of us that there's no telling, you know, what's going to happen next. So the stories in terms of how you guys got. Okay, next question for you guys. So I think we talked a lot about gender at work. because most of our industries are still male dominated. Think about being a woman in the workplace. What, if anything, has women do? Like, what patterns, I guess, have you that you work with? And what are some ways you think that we could adjust to be more equal in the workplace and stop like just representing our womanhood, I guess, in a way that can come off negative in the workplace? I'll Iman first since I did just.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. The first thing is like, stop apologizing. My goodness. Like, I try to be so unapologetic. I'm not going to apologize for anything. Like, just because you're intimidated doesn't mean I'm intimidating. That's a you thing, not a me thing. And so I can't own that. I can't own your problems and everybody in the way that everyone else perceives or takes things. Like that's the number one thing. And then I think the number two thing is like setting boundaries. If there are things that you need to do because you're, parenting, or you have another passion where you have a side hustle or whatever it is, let that be known, because once you are transparent and you put that on the table, then that allows for people to understand why you're handling things the way that you're handling them, or why you can't, or why you're not willing to, join a call before 8 a.m. because you have to drop your kid off, or why you can't, why you leave at 4 p.m. on Thursdays because you have, your exercise classes or whatever that is. So I think just being transparent and stop apologizing. You're not doing anything wrong by doing what's best for you.
Love that. Love that. I see Devin in the chat saying, stop apologizing. Thank you for your patience. And that is a trick I learned a couple months ago, actually. Like, instead of saying, I'm sorry, how can you say thank you? Right? So it's like, if you're running late, I'm sorry I'm late, but thank you all for waiting on me. Right? Like, happy to be here. What about you, Jeff?
Definitely. Wow. Those are amazing points, Amon. Absolutely loved everything you said. And as a new career woman, those are all things that like it's a struggle every day. It takes a while for those kind of habits to like embed into your mind and your personality. And so I guess for me, some of the patterns I noticed would just be like speaking up and being aggressive is kind of like the biggest thing. I think so often women take this kind of timid, secondary, backseat role in meetings and in conversations. And even when, you're more than capable to speak up and to speak on the situation. And so I think like one of the biggest things that women just need to do is just find our voice. Like you said, it's okay to be, even though you may come off timid, like the person may be intimidated, that does not mean that you're intimidating, to Amon's point. And so just being able to like speak up for yourself, to find your voice, to let your point be heard, even if it's not the best point. Like that's one of the things that I really admire that men do in the workplace. In common terms, they shoot their shot. Like whether the idea is good, bad, or crazy, like they're gonna throw it out there and just see the response it gets. And I think that takes them very far in their overall careers. And that's something that I don't think women have just mastered quite yet, myself included. So, it's a work in progress, but I definitely think the time that women can kind of step up, let their voices be heard, create inclusive environments for everyone, we'll start to really make some great progress in the workplace.
Yeah, I love that. And I think two bills for what you said. So the first piece about like just speaking, I learned this a couple of years ago, because I think women, we have, in lack of better words, bragging on ourselves, right? We have done some excellent work, and women like to just be like, I delivered my target, right? Yeah. It comes down to performance reviews, and when people are calibrate you versus your male counterparts are in there like, oh, I knocked it out of the park. Like I had the best, I delivered 50%, whatever. And it's like time to get like rated, like, who did better. Most of the time get rated more highly than women because they sell themselves a little bit more. So for one of the big things I've learned in the workplace is like, if nobody, like I gotta tell people, like, and you don't even have to be like, I feel that I did a great job. It's like, no, I delivered the single highest increase across the entire company, like, period. Like, so now what? Like, there can't be anybody that gets a better rating or better than me because I'm number one, right? And I told y'all, like, in my meeting, so I think as women, we have to start dimensionalizing our impact and really start allowing people to see, like, where do our results fall within the greater context? Because a lot of the times it's at the top, we're just not good at it. Right. And I think the second piece is funny. I'll have to send y'all an article after this, but I read an article the other day about how if there were 10 criteria, like to get a job, women usually meet like 7 of the 10 criteria, but apply because they have all 10 in order to apply for the job. On the contrary, you have men who, if they meet 3 out of 10, they apply for the job.
Yep.
So also, I think my Wi-Fi is still a little trash. So I'm going to just really quick and then give me just a second. Because I think Can you guys hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Wi-Fi was a little in and out, but I thought those were excellent points. Had to build on those because I think it's insanely funny how men have no issue self-promoting. So as women, we have to do more of that.
Definitely.
I'm going to take it a step deeper because I think women is its own challenge, but I think being a minority woman in the workplace has a whole additional set of challenges. So as a Black woman, how do you think about microaggressions in the office? Because I feel like corporate workplaces are an area where Black women usually experience a lot of microaggressions. Have you guys had any that really stood out to you? And if so, how'd you handle?
I'll take this one first so we can give mine a little break. I am very blessed to say that I have not experienced that so far. I think that my job and my company has done a really great job at creating inclusive environments. I can definitely tell that, it's still a boys club, but they have no problem like bringing me in on task and like bringing me up to speed with things. And so I would have to say that I have not experienced any microaggressions. I do think that, like I said, with it being a boys club, sometimes it can be a little difficult to kind of wiggle your way in because naturally people want to work with who they like. So if they like the males more because they can talk about sports and go off on a tangent and go out and grab a beer at the bar and stuff like that, like they're gonna probably pull them into more deals and projects in my case. Then you would a female where you feel like you have to be timid to not push the sexual harassment bounds or not say the wrong comment and stuff like that. And so I do think that is still very much a thing in the workplace, and that does impede women's progress in the workplace. But like I said, so far I have not experienced any like direct microaggressions that I can recall.
I love that. A blessed place to be because I've heard some things in the workplace. UI continues to be a place that values really like it shows in the workplace.
Yes.
Iman, I think, yeah, honestly, there are tons of microaggressions all the time. And the thing is that it's not always like them even, I think some people do it and don't even recognize it. So I think one, recognizing that microaggressions don't always have to be out of like anger or spite. Like you'll see them probably everywhere because it just happens. And for me, the biggest thing I like to do is nothing makes people realize that they've done messed up by making them think on it. So what did you mean by that? Like explain to me in regular, HR approved words what you were saying when you said what you said, and why did you what made you feel that was appropriate? Now all of a sudden, I didn't blah blah blah. Yeah, exactly. So, and I think calling someone out in that manner where it's not necessarily aggression, the aggression back or whatever, you're just like, oh yeah, so like what can you please explain to me what you meant by that? Go into a little detail. I'm having a hard time understanding what you meant. Now all of a sudden they then have to understand what they meant, and that might prevent them from sharing that, again. And then another thing for me with microaggressions is I just always deliver. I always do what I'm supposed to do, because at the end of the day, if you don't like me, that's not my problem, because there's nothing you can do about it because I'm great at my job. So I don't need you to like me. What I need you to do is respect me and include me on the things that I need to be included on in order to deliver my business. And so there's no, you can't, any complaints would be not centered on my performance. It would be centered on your emotion. So that to me, let me deliver and let me make you think about what you said, because then you'll learn not to do that in the future.
I love that because I'm so quick to be I'm ready to, I go turn up before I go reflect. So I think that's such a great point to be because I'm more like, oh, you got me. So I think I need to take a note from Iman on how to do that. The feedback in the workplace that I can be combative. And I think that's so funny. Because I feel like Black women are just always peaked as being like combative and aggressive. And it's like just because I stand up for myself or I have a differing opinion than the majority of the group, I'm not being combative. Literally, I had an incident with one of my senior directors right when I started. And I mean, she sent an email where like we were doing performance. She's like, Tiara's work is excellent. She's over delivering metric. She has such a great relationship with the customer. The buyers love her. Everything's great. I would give her some coaching on her soft skills because she can be combative. And so it was like, like to Iman's question, what do you mean by that, right? I didn't ask that question first. It took me a while to get there. But by the time I got there and was like, what do you mean? She was just giving examples of how like somebody on the team would say, I think we should do X. And I would say, well, I mean, that's a good idea, but what if we consider doing Y? And like, that's exactly how I would phrase it. And if that was being like peaked as being combative. So it was so funny because I actually had another white man on my team step into my say, I never felt like Tiara was combative. I just always think she has a third way of thinking about things. And so for me to have a white male counterpart step in and like really go to bat for me, I feel like that was like a really critical moment for my career because it made me realize that we're still in a space that there's always microaggressions, but two, like look at how we value the white male voice as a way to smooth everything over, right? The situation was completely smooth as soon as my white male counterpart stepped in.
Yeah.
So how do we create spaces for men, especially white men, anybody to just step in and save us, and that people can start to like recognize us for the value we bring as a unique individual and not a Black woman, right?
I completely agree with that. And Brandon just shook me with his comment on, I think as minority people in general, we are always wanting to include others because we know how it feels to not necessarily fit in with the people that you're around, or to not always have those exact synchronous, like the same things like going on. And with that, we're very inclusive and we don't want anyone to feel left out. And so we all often take the role as the culture leader or the diversity, inclusion, and equality leader. And then that tends to be what people recognize rather than the way that we deliver, our goals and business metrics. And I think like feeling empowered to push back on that. And like Brandon said, saying, hey, I'm more than a culture leader. I'm a business leader. And in the work that I'm doing as it pertains to business is driving true change is something that I know for myself, I need to get better at because I blow my business out of the water and have never not delivered my measures. And it seems that I'm always getting awarded for doing things for culture. So Brandon, I'm with you on that. Like, let's partner together and learn from each other on how to, make sure that we're getting the business, we're getting recognized for our business responses.
Yeah. Also, and let's nominate each other. I think, we spend so much time hoping that our like leadership is going to recognize, but it's like, we also have voices. So like, if we see Iman or Brandon or Devin or someone, it's like, it takes 5 minutes for us to write a nomination to say, Devin deserves this, Iman deserves this. So I think we have to bring some of that ownership for us too, because until they recognize the same rates, we have to recognize ourselves and continue to push ourselves into those platforms.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, guys, great discussion. I almost move on to my next question. So for the next question, as you think about like being busy, I think busy is like such a buzzword that I kind of hope died a little bit during COVID, but I feel like now that we're post-pandemic, we're all back to being busy, right? So now that we're so busy, how do you guys take care of yourself and maintain like good mental health as you think about all the things going on in the world? So I think we have all this stuff in the world, all this stuff happening at work. How do you just keep your routine and make time to carve out for yourself?
I'll go first. I think for me, it's a couple of different things. The first thing is making sure that I'm bringing what I'm passionate about into my day job, because I think that prevents burnout. Whenever, if I was just set to deal with, the business that I deal with, like I'm honest to God, not super passionate about it. I'm passionate about the life that it affords me and the people that I've met because of it and the impact that I can have, but I can sell anything. And so in me bringing what I'm passionate about, which is like transparency and people being able to bring their full selves to work and, laughing, and everything doesn't have to be so serious. I think that for me makes, days where I have back-to-back meetings bearable. And then the other thing is like setting boundaries to make sure that I can still do the things that I am passionate about or that bring me joy outside of work. There's often times where, people say 9 to 5, and where I work, a 9 to 5 doesn't exist. It's like a 7 to 7 a lot of the days. And where I'm like, hey, I hear you that this has to get done. And like, it's a priority, but in me prioritizing this, am I hearing that you want me to deprioritize something else because I have, I have a conflict that I can't move at this time. So what I'm hearing you say is that you don't want me to do X, Y, and Z so that I can focus on this and get to where I need to go at 5 o'clock. And so that is just another way that allows me, to kind of stay happy and fresh for every single day. And then also a last thing is just like having a solid group of people around me who lift me up. And like my husband, I have some really good friends that, are always there and always willing to like go on a trip or do something fun that really gets me out of like the day-to-day monotony that can happen when you're just working, tirelessly every single day.
Yeah, this is my first time hearing Iman on the my husband, guys. She got married and great, just revelation that we have Mrs. Married Iman on the phone. So.
Stop. I've been married for like 10 years, unofficially.
5 months, but okay, go off. All right, question to you.
Yes. So I think to Aman's point, the biggest thing is definitely transparency and communication and just really understanding your deadlines. I think with me at my company, there's this like false sense of urgency, I feel like, where everything needs to be done immediately. And so oftentimes, and I'm still learning this and trying to kind of get my bearings around this, but oftentimes I have to like sit down and have conversations with my managers about, okay, what's really important? Like today, these are the hours that I have available to work. Where should my focus be? Where should my prioritization be? And then what can be pushed off till tomorrow? Because surely everything does not need to be done tonight at any cost. So having just those transparent conversations and really just understanding prioritization has made a big difference for me. But then also, like you guys said, just setting boundaries. Like these jobs will work you if you let them. That's the key word. Like I have so many people that I started with and now like we'll be in these trainings and we're just talking and they're like, yeah, I haven't taken 1 day of vacation. Why? I'm like, I've taken 5 weeks. Like, what are you doing? We work at the same firm. We're in the same exact position and I've taken 5 weeks off, but you can't manage to get 1 day. Like at that point, it's almost a boundary thing. You're letting this job take you and kind of keep pushing you and taking what it can from you. And it's going to do that. And so at some point you have to take your own accountability to just say, hey, these activities are important to me. To Aman's point, I need to prioritize that. I need to get to this. I need to do my weekly yoga that I just started doing. Or I want to be off by 7 so that I can make my workouts. Like you just have to make sure that you're finding your voice, as we talked about earlier, standing up for yourself and kind of setting your boundaries, because otherwise you'll definitely get taken for a ride.
Jess, I literally love that. And you sparked something else for me is that don't let other people's timelines control how your job or your day, because I know we all get like those messages like, I need this by COB or EOD, and I'm like, you'll get it by end of week, because just because you didn't ask for it in time doesn't mean that it's an emergency for me. And so when you said, when you were talking about, making priority calls and talking it out with your manager, like, I'm not going to let your timeline control my life.
Yep. Especially on like a continuous basis. Like that's my big thing. Like I understand, late nights happen. It's a part of all of the jobs that we signed up for. That's corporate America. But for that to be a continuous thing, there's a disconnect there. And that's something bigger that we need to talk about at that point.
Yep. And I think giving people around you permission to feel like they can take that space, because I think now that I'm in this new assignment, I started back in July, and now that I have a team of people that like kind of work with me every day, and I think like I just went on vacation this past week, and I legit like did not have my phone on me, and I think just giving something back so not secretive, but more just like, oh, like I'm taking a trip, but you can still reach me, and it's like no, like I'm just making it that like I am going out on vacation. I will not have access to phone or email. If it is an emergency, it will be here when I get back on Tuesday. You know, that's how I make it. And I feel like giving my team that permission, I feel like it's hopefully going to be helpful for them too, because I think sometimes you just need to see the behavior role model. Sometimes you need to see people just, because if you think about our leadership today, it's like a lot of our CEOs, like even when they're on vacation, they're still into things. So I think we have to start role modeling that behavior so people feel more comfortable doing that in the workplace. So I love what you both brought, because I cannot wait to tell people that their emergencies are not my priority, in the words of Iman.
Yeah, I remember, it's just as like a quick share, I had a partner to email me Sunday morning at 11 a.m. It was something like super quick. He just needed like some information from me. And I don't check my emails on Sunday. I'm not sure if that's abnormal about me or and like the workplace culture just changed so much, but I don't check my emails. So I happen to have some time to check it just randomly, like in the evening. It's like 6 p.m. at this point. And by that time, he had emailed me about 3 times telling me like, this is urgent. I really need this information. I cannot continue to wait for you. And I was just like, it's Sunday. Like, what do you want from me? And I think like I responded back to him and I was like, I apologize for any delay that I may have caused, but it is the weekend. And I don't make a practice of checking my emails on the weekend. Nonetheless, here's what you need. But I'm like, I think to the point that we've all been making, you have to set those boundaries for yourself. I will say I've not gotten any more Sunday emails. So think that may have worked, but like you have to set boundaries for yourself, because one, everybody's schedule is different. There are truly people who don't mind working on weekends or late hours and stuff like that. So sometimes it truly is innocently like, hey, I'm working. I didn't really consider your schedule. So it's important for us to stand up for ourselves and create that boundary.
Yes to boundaries, and yes to me not being the person that sends Sunday emails, because sometimes I'm a role where I will be like, I'll just be reading something and it just don't make sense. So I'm like, wait, excuse me, like what is this? It might be Sunday, and then I get all of my feelings. I just disrupted someone's weekend in the way that I did.
Yeah.
Knowing people's intent, tell my team, like, you see email from me on Sunday, it's just because I my head, but it's like you don't owe me a response. You know what I mean? So kind of setting those boundaries. I think boundaries is the key word, but setting those boundaries with your team to work with. So I told you guys I went on vacation this week. I went with 2 of my girlfriends who work at P&G. So we all work within sales. We're all Black women, all, doing the damn thing. And as part of the conversation, we were talking about how we've noticed that, we've had very distinct situations in corporate America with other women. So we feel like sometimes we have all these positive experiences where we are just like supportive and we're lifting each other up. And then, of course, we kind of have some of the mean girl experiences where we feel hazed at work and we're really pledging after hours and all this kind of stuff. So, I just want you guys to talk about like women, we can be better at just supporting each other in organizations, because I think the world is hard enough. Like, show up each other as women in a way that looks like help.
Definitely. I will jump in here. So I think one of the biggest ways that we can support each other in our organization is kind of, I guess, repeating things that were said by other women. So just kind of like to Aman's point, sometimes, our voices get stifled. Sometimes it maybe innocently overlooked the point that we made or things that we said. And so I think by us kind of standing together and like, hey, Aman made a wonderful point. I think maybe we should give a little bit more attention to that, and just kind of bringing the attention to where it may be needed in this situation. We can definitely be supportive for one another. And then additionally, just like extending the olive branch. So one thing that my firm does that I'm super proud of is we have peer buddies. And so this year I must have been like the peer buddy of the year, because I have gotten 6 peer buddies since the top of this year. So I've been buddied up a lot. But what I will say from that experience is it allows me to make those connections with people. It allows me to also let people know that, you have a resource. Like, so often, especially in these huge companies and firms, it's so easy to feel like a number. You feel lost. You don't know what you're doing, especially as someone new, like a virtual environment. and you don't know who to contact. So just kind of extending the olive branch, letting our other women, especially around us, know like, hey, I've been there. I know what you're going through. You know, how can I help? What do you need? What questions do you have that I can address for you? And just kind of creating those like judgment-free zones, I think gives so much support and so much encouragement to the women around us and in our organizations.
I love that, Jess. And I think that's a point that we had APA Heritage Month earlier this year. And so Amy Chang, who is like, you know, works for Google, like super just, I mean, 40 under 40, just like amazing woman, was speaking at one of our events. And that's exactly what she was talking about. She's talking about how we have to like uplift other women's voices in the workplace. And she was talking specifically about minorities. Like she was saying, kind of pass over minority, like speak a lot. And so it does help to have somebody just be like, especially because a lot of times in work, people are making the same point. Like a lot of times people are just saying exactly what you said. And so she was like, she literally is like, oh yeah, like thanks for reiterating, just actually just made that point. You know, yeah. Like reiterating, I see it's a common thought amongst the group. Like, and like, but just have a moment. So I love that. I think that's important. And I need to support that.
Same.
Yeah, to that point, everything that you just said, Jess, I was eating it up because I'm like, absolutely, that's exactly what, you know, like we as women need to do. And I think just going, you know, peeling the onion a little bit more is that like, listen, whenever people ask you a question or, hey, how do you, I just had a connect today actually with a young minority woman who's thinking about relocating to where I'm currently at in terms of like a city and team. And she was asking me, how is it? And so I could, you know, give the cookie cutter response like, hey, this is a wonderful opportunity and I'm learning a lot and I'm being challenged in ways that I, you know, never thought I would be professionally, and I'm just developing and growing and blah, blah, blah. But I think we owe it to each other as women, particularly as minority women, to be real and transparent when we are, you know, asked questions, especially when they're, you know, in one-to-ones or like, as Jess said, in like safe spaces, because I don't want to set you up to be in a position where you're not happy or you're not, and that is causing you to not be able to deliver when, hey, I could have been honest. You could have made the decision that is actually best for you. And then, you know, your performance or attitude or whatever it was never would have been a thing. And also in that same vein, I think it's like we all learn some things the hard way, and we all have different experiences. And I think just sharing that information and knowledge forward, like, hey, so-and-so doesn't like this, or they expect to have a pre-read 24 hours in advance. I learned the hard way, so I sent it 48 hours before the last time so that I'm showing up even better than my peers. You know, things like that, like little tidbits of knowledge that, hey, you might only learn through, you know, a little rough experience or whatever it is. Share that forward with your, you know, with fellow women, fellow minorities, so that everyone is showing up as strong as they possibly can, and so that they don't have to learn the hard way. They learn from the mistakes or, you know, the disadvantages that you went through.
Yeah, I love that, sharing the cultural norm, because and fortunately I got to follow like one of my good friends, Tyler, and then this other really good friend of mine, Brianna. I backfilled them in my last couple of jobs. So it was like, I mean, it's one thing to transition the business, but I think, Iman, to your point on the norms and like telling people like what's to be expected of you that isn't like really written on paper, those are the kind of things that separate you, right? And it saves you all that heartache of messing up at the beginning and then figuring it out later. So I think as women, we owe each other that, and we'll have to continue doing more of that in the workplace. All right, I have just a couple more questions. I know we have like 10 more minutes together, and I'm so sad that our time is coming to an end because I love being able to talk to my friends about things like this. But I have more questions for you, and then I will let you go or share any other stories that you guys have. So my second to last question is pretty easy and more light. Who is your biggest female role model? As you think about where you are personally, professionally, who is your biggest female role model, and how has that person impacted your life?
I'll go first. I think for me, I literally know it's my mom. She is so amazing. She has raised 6 kids in like the least ideal circumstances and has been through so, so much. And she is still the kindest, most patient, most thoughtful person that I've ever met. She's so smart to be able to adapt and, you know, really fit in and make people feel heard, and no matter what the circumstance. And she does all this, and she doesn't have a college degree. She never went to college. And I think a lot of the time we think like, oh, I gotta, you know, look up to somebody who has a PhD or a doctorate or is involved in X, Y, and Z. And I like just seeing my mom like go through life and really had a really bad dealt like hand of cards that she was dealt, and just maximize it. I mean, I know we probably all have been playing spades at one point or another, and you're like, I got 0 and 1 possible, and somehow you end up winning. And I think that's exactly what my mom did, and she inspires me every single day to, you know, continue to put my best foot forward, treat people with kindness and respect no matter what position they are in life, and to go after what I want. So shout out to Ruth. She's really the MVP for sure.
Iman, you better call her after this, and I want you to repeat all that. Because
you know, I talk to my mom every day for about an hour. So
I was like, if I called Janice and told her that just now, she would be in tears. So I need you to keep that back and give her all the flowers while she's living, which I know you do, but just keep giving them to her because that was amazing.
Yes. Oh gosh, I don't even know how I followed that. Yeah, I was just saying, like, I've been thankful that I have such a beautiful tribe of women around me. From my mom, I agree wholeheartedly with Iman. My mom is just such a giver, and it's so beautiful to see, because sometimes I get so caught up in being an only child and being slightly on the more selfish side. And so to just have her heart of gold like pouring into me, it is starting to rub off. Especially the older I get, the more I'm like, I see things from her perspective, and I just admire her so much for raising me as a single parent, for providing me everything I needed. You know, I never realized, you know, how hard things were for her. And it's not really until you become an adult that you kind of realize, like, wow, so you mean to tell me when the lights went out, that was because, you know, you couldn't afford to pay, not because, you know, it was just a night in the dark kind of sleepover. So, you know, you don't really appreciate those things. But even outside of my mom, you know, just I have amazing aunts who pour into me. I always say, outside of my mom, I'm my aunt's second child. Like, that's my second mom. Like, she raised me. She was my babysitter, so I spent so much time over there with her, and so much of my life mirrors hers. And I think that's definitely like no coincidence at all. And then even just to my friends, I know my mom brought up how she admires me and you, and trust me, it goes both ways. I admire Tiara and Iman so much, and just other friends who are just bosses. They're out here getting it. They're showing me how to be myself, how to step into my own woman, being my own woman, how to find my voice in corporate America, just how to enjoy life. And so I'm just very thankful for the tribe of women around me.
Yeah, yes, I
Great.
love that too.
Yes,
I was just saying that I love that.
Yeah.
And I have like some aunts and cousins. I have one particular aunt and cousins, and she has 3 daughters that like we're like basically we have huge family, but those are my actual like family that I really mess with, and they're super inspiring. And I think just you mentioning your tribe, it just, whenever people are like, who inspires you or who inspired you, we always look like to the past, but like I think I'm recognizing that inspiration is ongoing, and I'm consistently being inspired by the things that I'm seeing in my friends and in other women. So I just love that so much, Jess and T. Like, y'all nailed it.
Yeah, I love all of that, and I'm so glad that was the second to last question, because y'all also know I am emotional, so I will drop a tear at any moment. I'll be tearing up on live. So I move us to our final question, and I think it's just going to be a good way to close out our first session of this month. What advice would you give? I mean, there are women out here, young girls, that are going to be in our positions like in the near future. What advice would you give them as they think about chasing their dreams and really, you know, getting into their dream careers and just making an impact in the world? What advice would you give?
I'm happy to go first. I think whenever we see people being successful, we always think, oh, they had to give up something in order to get there, or they had to make themselves. T inspires me to I swear she does. But I think my message is that, like, you don't have to give up anything. You don't have to make yourself smaller. You don't have to fit into a box. I think all you have to do is recognize the power that you have and own it. And when you own it and when you're confident in who you are and what you bring to the table, nobody can tell you anything. I know people probably wish they could tell me things at times, but I'm not here for it. And so for me, I just think being who you are unapologetically and owning that is going to make you so much more authentic and make people being drawn to you, because we can all spot fakeness or shadiness, or like, I would not, it's not even fake or shady. It's like you're not being 100% authentic. And so just be that, bring that. And like, that is half the battle for real, because you can learn any skill or how to do any task on the job.
Love that. Yeah, you're right. I think you can. I mean, I think about, as soon as you start saying like the fake and not authentic, I immediately start thinking about specific people I work with, right? So I think as you think about how easy, and I'm sure everybody on the phone did too. As soon as you think about fake and not authentic, you're like, oh, there's like one man I work with in finance, right? And so it's like, how?
Wait a second, not finance. You gotta be in like HR or something.
Yeah, HR, IT, one of those departments. It's like, you don't want to be that person. Like, you don't want to be the person that comes to mind when people are like, oh, the fake girl and whatever. So I love that. All right, Jen, words of wisdom.
Let's see. I would have to say, this is such a good question. Kind of almost piggybacking off of mine. Definitely being your full self. Like, don't be afraid to let your light shine, and getting an early start on kind of your career. Like, if there's something that you think you may want to try, go do it. Like, so many people, I feel like, get pigeonholed or just kind of hold themselves back about, like, do I want to pursue this? Do I want to do that? And so I would say, just like, go after what you want. Put your voice out there. Speak up for what you need. Try different positions. Definitely don't box yourself in, especially as a young woman. Like, I know sometimes it's tempting to say, this is what I'm going to do. This is the only thing. But like, try different versions of it. So yes, I'm an accountant, but like, I've done 3 different internships, and to some extent they're all the same, but you also learn things in different perspectives. Like, I've done public accounting, I've worked for a company, and I've done like the industry side. So I've tried all 3. And now I have a comparative point to which I can kind of continue to build my resume and my Rolodex of skills on. So it's definitely important to put yourself out there, get those various experiences, and stand up for yourself. Don't be afraid to switch jobs. If that one isn't working, you're not happy, you can't get the balance in the life you want, change it. I think sometimes women, we're like instilled to be like, air quote, loyal. And so we carry that even into the workplace, and feeling like we can't leave the job. We just got here. We can't leave, our favorite coworker is here, or whatever the reason is. And I'm like, girl, leave that job. Find you another one that can make you happy and really just be your true self. So that would probably be my big advice.
Oh, I just love that. And you made me think of one other thing, which is like, ask for help if you need it. These white people, these men, they don't got no problem asking for help or calling in a favor or reaching out to contact folks they don't even know. You know what I'm, so like, don't feel that you have to do it all on your own, which I wish I would have known that, earlier in my career. And I honestly need to do a better job of even executing that now in my career. So reach out for help, raise that flag. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to do it all by yourself. Trust me, everybody else isn't.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that. And the last thing I'll end on is, because although I'm hosting this, I have to say it because I'm in a place where I feel like my job has been extremely difficult over the last couple of months. Everybody who's close to me knows, like, I am going through the ringer. And I think like the only difference between, I think the best video I've seen is like, so when he talks about like the only difference between him and everybody else is that he didn't quit. Right. So if I could give somebody advice, like who's going through it right now, like, we talked about it. The path isn't linear. You might not get your first job you want. You might get rejected from your dream job, or maybe your college didn't give you a scholarship, but it's like, you just can't quit. Like, I never thought I would have went to Georgia State and like, got to be at a top 50 company or been one of 2 Black, directors in my organization. Like, I just never thought these things would happen. And it's like all the things that happened on this road kind of led me here. And it's like, imagine me quitting because the first thing that didn't go right, right? So I just say, my big advice to people is just don't quit. Like, just keep going. So I'm so happy. I'm so full. I feel like the people in the comments in the chat are full. So thank you guys for spending this hour with us. I think it's such a great way to kick off this series that we're titling Winning in the Workplace, because we're going to make sure we're making ourselves financially free through whatever avenue works for you, right? So if it's corporate, if it's work, if it's entrepreneurship, whatever that avenue is for you, we're going to make it work for you. So I'm super excited for you guys to join us. Thank you, Iman and Jess, so much for being our panelists this week. And see you guys next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.